Buju, Tanze, Wadsie, Han, Atlanate. Welcome! This video series for parents is presented by the Speech Language team at the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Centre. In this video, we will learn about what phonological awareness is, why it's so important, and how you can help build your child's phonological awareness skills at home. My name is Karen Batchelor, and I'm one of the SLPs at MFNERC. This topic has been presented upon a few times in the past, so I'd like to acknowledge SLPs Kelly Ring-Wicklow and Christine Crawford, who have contributed some of the slides. Phonological awareness is an auditory or listening skill. To practice phonological awareness, you don't need a pencil and paper. What you need is someone's voice and ears that are listening. Phonological awareness allows you to tune in to the sounds of language. An example is when a kid recognizes, hey, that sound is at the start of my name. It allows you to recognize sequences in language. An example is noticing that blueberry and raspberry both have the word berry in them. Lastly, it allows for the manipulation of sounds and sequences in language. An example would be making a shortened nickname for a friend, so calling your friend Brittany Brit. This also includes the realization that words can be broken up into individual sounds, and that individual sounds can be put together to make up words. So it's this ability to notice, think about, and work with the individual sounds in a word that is really the basis of phonological awareness. So we have a bit of an idea about what phonological awareness is. So why is it so important? Phonological awareness helps with reading, vocabulary knowledge, spelling abilities, and phonemic awareness. Phonological awareness is the biggest building block for reading success. This is why it's so important that children get lots of support to learn these skills. There's often a big focus on identifying letters and writing the names of letters, but if these early phonological awareness listening skills aren't there, reading will be very, very difficult. These skills are crucial for learning to read. Having low phonological awareness skills creates an unfortunate cycle from a young age. If a student has low skills, they'll struggle with reading. Typically, people dislike what they struggle with. And when they dislike reading, they'll want to read less and less. This lack of practice will therefore cause them to struggle even more. I'm going to go through a few phonological awareness activities soon. While I go through these activities, I want you to keep in mind this note about exposure. So very often when children work on a new skill or activity, they are asked a question and then expected to answer. This can be quite stressful for the child, especially if they're struggling to know the answer. If this happens, there's a chance that the child will refuse to participate, and the adult might end up feeling stressed or frustrated as well. So not an ideal outcome. This doesn't happen all the time when kids are expected to answer questions, but it definitely can happen. An alternative to this is that the adult provides examples and exposure to a new skill through lots of demonstration. Rather than expecting a response or answer, the child learns by observing. This is more fun for the child, and therefore they will continue to learn and stay interested in the activity because they don't feel that pressure to perform. Lots of the activities that I demonstrate today will have this second path. So it will be the adult providing lots of examples to help the child learn. If there is an activity that the child is expected to answer, remember that you can easily turn that activity into the second type and just produce lots of examples. So you would ask the question and also answer that question, providing the demonstration of how the activity works. I'm going to go through these activities in order of easiest to hardest. If trying these with your child for the first time, start with the easiest skills first. First up is rhyming. Here is a list of words that rhyme. Ring, sing, thing, fling, king. Here is another list of words that rhyme. Blue, two, shoe, glue, moo. You'll notice in this second list that the spelling is not the same. This is fine and really doesn't matter at all. When working on phonological awareness skills, we care about the sounds we hear, not the letters we see written. Don't let the spelling of words confuse you. This is true for all the different activities that I'll talk about today. Did you know that lots of children's songs and nursery rhymes include rhymes? Having children hear and sing these types of songs is a fun way for them to learn rhymes. I definitely recommend singing or playing these songs for your kids. In the song Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, the rhymes are star and are, and high and sky. Often rhymes are at the end of sentences or phrases. Here's a few examples of songs and nursery rhymes that feature lots of rhymes. Choose whichever songs and nursery rhymes are your favorite and are the ones that you're most comfortable with. Lots of popular children's books expose children to rhymes. I recommend trying to read books like these with your children as well. These are 3 examples of popular rhyming books. For books like these that have a predictable and repetitive rhyme pattern, pause when you get to the rhyme and see if your child can fill in the blank. And if you're reading a book that doesn't have a ton of rhymes, that's totally fine too. Just see if you can find any 2 words that rhyme, or think of a new word that rhymes with one of the words in the book. With these nursery rhymes and books, the focus is on having lots of exposure to rhyming words. Moving on to the next step is working with syllables. So what is a syllable? Syllables are the pieces or beats of a word. Balloon is 2 syllables. Balloon. Exercise is 3 syllables. Exercise. And helicopter is 4 syllables. Helicopter. An example of a syllable activity is guess what? First, you think of a secret word that is 2, 3, or 4 syllables long. You can use any word that comes to mind, or look around your home, or in a flyer or a book for ideas. Slowly say the word, pausing for 1 second in between each syllable. If my secret word is jacket, I would say jack it. Or even slower, jack it. The child tries to guess what the secret word is by blending those syllables together. If they are struggling, you can give them clues. A good clue could be, this is something that you wear, or this is something that keeps you warm. Another way you can make it easier is by having a shorter pause in between the syllables. Rather than saying jack it, you could say jack it. If your child is finding this activity easy, you can make it more challenging by switching roles. It would be the child's job to think of a secret word and break it into pieces. Then it would be your job to guess the secret word that they're saying. Here's a few more ways that you can sneak in syllable skills into your day. Notice long words and bring them to your child's attention. Clap those long words into their syllables. Examples of extra long words are helicopter and hippopotamus, which are 4 and 5 claps or syllables each. You can also clap out really any words and compare how many claps different words are. If you're going for a walk and you see a tree, rocks, and a canoe, you could keep track that tree and rock are both 1 clap or 1 syllable, while canoe is 2 claps. It's also fun to clap out your name, your child's name, and the names of family members and friends. I always say clapping out syllables for these activities, but you could also do hopping or marching to the beats of words. Now we're moving up to the third step, which is identifying sounds. And this is specifically identifying the sound in a certain position of a word. Identifying the sound at the start of the word is the easiest. Cat has the sound k at the start of it. More difficult is identifying the sound at the end of the word. Cat has the sound t at the end of it. The game I Spy can be used for sound identification. Usually this game is played while identifying items of a certain color, but we can change it to finding items that start with a certain sound. You would say, I spy with my little eye something that starts with the sound. So you could choose any sound like s, sh, p, n, o, g. Any sound. Then the child finds different items or pictures that start with that sound. See how many they can think of. You could use items around your home or look in a picture book and use items in a picture book. Here's an example of I Spy with a storybook page. I spy the word that ends with I spy words that start with the sound B. There's bird, bunny, bear. We can also focus on the sounds at the end of a word with this activity. I spy a word that ends with the sound k. Duck ends with the sound k. Here's a few more ways that you can sneak this skill into your day. Notice when 2 words start with the same sound. Point it out to your child and really emphasize that sound that's the same. If you're having a fish fry, you could say, hey, fish and fry both start with this sound. Fish, fry. For really any word, you can think of what sound it starts with. To stick with our food theme, you could think of the first sound of each food on your plate while eating dinner. Remember, we're focusing on the sound we hear, not the letter name. So if you're having a muffin, we'd say it starts with the sound not the sound M. M is the name of the letter, not the sound. Now on to the last step, which is working with sounds. Remember that one sound does not always match to one letter. Sometimes it's easiest if you pretend that you don't know how a word is spelled. For example, the sound k has 3 different spellings, as you can see in karate, car, and chick. Fox is spelled with 3 letters, F-O-X, but it actually has 4 sounds. F, A, K, S. Though is spelled with 6 letters, but only has 2 sounds. Z, O. Robot talk is a fun way to show your child how words can be broken up into sounds. Choose any word, ideally one that your child is interested in or would think is fun. Then you say the word, but broken up into each sound. For the word movie, I would say oo, z, e. For the word Xbox, I would say e, k, s, b, a, k, s. So that's an example of how the sounds don't match the letters in the word. For the word Xbox, there's only 4 letters, but that was 7 different sounds that I made. Don't let the spelling trick you. Only pay attention to each individual sound that you hear. If your child wants to try robot talk, that is great. They can copy what you say or try it with some of their own words. But remember, even if they don't try it on their own, they are learning just from hearing you. We've progressed through all 4 steps, and I've provided 1 or 2 activities per step. Now I'm going to show you one more resource you can use to target all of these skills, and it will also help to review some of the activities that I described. This activity for multiple skills is Flyer Find. For rhyming, there's probably a pretty low chance that 2 words on the page will happen to rhyme. But you and your child can think of a word that rhymes with a word that's on the page. What rhymes with cheese? Sneeze and please rhyme with cheese. For syllables, it can be like a scavenger hunt to find the word with the most syllables. Can they find a word that's 4 or 5 claps long? You could also play Guess What and show them the flyer to see the different options. That's the game where you break up a word, like pizza, into pizza, and they have to figure out the word you're saying. Using the flyer, you could play I spy for a certain sound. You could say, I spy a word that starts with a. So maybe there's apples on the page. You could also ask your child to find some of their favorite foods or items on the page and then make the sound that it starts with. I love chips, and chips start with ch. For working with sounds, you can choose any words to do robot talk with. You could also turn your robot talk into Guess What. So you would say, where's the b, r, e, d? And they need to figure out the word bread by blending those sounds. So you can be really creative with how you use flyers or other similar materials you might have, like magazines or books or newspapers. Miigwech, Kanaskamatin, Kananakamin, Pitaimeya, Nasi. If you have comments or questions, please email the speech language team at speechandliteracy@mfnerc.com. Thank you for joining.